What up, people? Welcome to the Digital Pit Boss Show. We're going to get into it. Y'all know how I get down. I'm bringing to you something different. Conscious community can't handle this fraternal order of Pan-Africanism and this STEM program. Today, we're going to play a little bit of this Booker T. Washington in this character building. And he's going to explain how, because of the paradigm he has shifted and changed for Black folks at his day, that the public at large was wanting to support it. And anytime you support that STEM program, them literary art majors over there on the other side gonna hate. Y'all can't hate. All you can do is wait. Digital Pit Boss is at you. Good morning on the West Coast. Good morning in London. Good morning in Africa. And good morning in Australia. Or good evening in London. We got to deal with these time factors. So we're going to have a good show. We're going to touch a few things. I'm going to let a little bit of this audio play. Now, of course, I can't get Booker T. Washington himself to read the book. So I just found somewhere online where I can get a reader who's going to read a little bit out of the book, Character Building. Give y'all some insight on how they was thinking back in the day and how it applies to today. So let's get into it. You know how we do it. All right. So where do we go from here? Now, while I play this little audio, I felt it only righteous that I throw up a nice picture of Booker T. So y'all hang tight. And audio's about 10 minutes. You feel me? So enjoy the audio, and then I'll be looking in the chat rooms to see if y'all posted any interesting questions or if just my haters showed up. Hi, haters. So let's get into this business. We're going to talk about Donald Trump and the rest of that, the Bitcoin, all of that, the STEM technology, and what's really going on in America, because it damn sure ain't the so-called conscious community. They stuck arguing about whose YouTube page is doing what. I'm out. Pit Boss on the run with it. Let's get it.
Character Building by Booker T. Washington. Chapter 21. What is to be our future? Last Thursday afternoon, I received a telegram from a gentleman stopping for a time in a city in Georgia, asking me to come there at once on important business. And being rather curious to know what he wanted of me, I went. I found that this person was in the act of making his will, and that he had in mind the putting aside of a considerable sum in his will, some 20,000, in fact, for this institution. The special point upon which this gentleman wished to consult me was the future of the institution. He said that he had worked very hard for his money, that it had come as a result of much sacrifice and hard effort, and that there were friends of his who were beseeching him to use his money in other directions, because they thought it would be more likely to do permanent good elsewhere. And so he wished to know what the future of this institution is likely to be, because he did not care to risk his money upon an uncertain venture, one that was likely to prosper for a few years and then fail. He said that he would not like to give his money to an institution where it would not go on through the years, accomplishing a certain amount of good. Accordingly, the question he repeated to me over and over again was, what is to be the future of Tuskegee? He wished to know whether, if we were given the money, it would go on from year to year, blessing one generation after another. My point in speaking to you tonight is to emphasize what I think our good friend Professor Brown has already brought to our attention in one or two of his talks to us this week. The importance of making this institution what it ought to be, what its reputation gives it, and what its name implies. More and more I realize and I remember that the gentleman of whom I have spoken to me with great emphasis that so far as the outside world is concerned, Tuskegee is sure. You need not have the least doubt that the institution will be supported. If we keep things right at the institution, if it is worthy of support, the moneyed people of the country will support it and stand by it. More and more each year, this impression grows upon me, and more each year, there are convincing evidences of the fact that the permanence and growth of this institution do not rest upon whether the people of the South or the people of the North are going to support it with their means. I have the most implicit confidence that the Institute is going to be supported. But the question that comes to us with the greatest force is, are we going to be worthy of that support? Shall we be worthy of the confidence of the public? That is the question that is most serious. That is the question that presses most heavily upon my heart and upon the hearts of the other teachers here. Now, these questions can be answered satisfactorily only by evidence that each student, each individual connected with the school in any way, no matter in how low or high capacity, is putting his or her whole conscience into the work here. When I say work, I mean study of books, work of the hand, effort of the body, willingness of the heart. No matter what the thing is, put your conscience into it. Do your best. Let it be possible for you to say, I have put my whole soul into my study, into my work, into whatever I've attempted. Whatever I have done, I have honestly endeavored to do to the best of my ability. The questions which this gentleman asked me, and similar kinds of questions, are being asked over and over again by people all over the country. The question can be answered only by our putting our consciences into our work, and by our being entirely unselfish in it. Let every person get into the habit of planning every day for the comfort and welfare of others. Let each one try to live as unselfishly as possible, remembering that the Bible says, he that would save his life must lose it. And you never saw a person save his life in this higher sense, in the Christ-like sense, unless that person was willing, day by day, to lose himself in the interest of his fellow men. Such persons save their own lives, and in saving them, save thousands of other lives. Such questions as these can be satisfactorily answered not merely by our putting our consciences into every effort, no matter what the effort may be, but by improving day by day upon what has been done the day before. In large institutions and establishments, it is comparatively easy to find persons who will sweep a room day by day, or plough a field during certain seasons of the year, and do other work at certain other seasons of the year. But the difficulty comes in finding persons who make improvements in the manner of sweeping rooms, of ploughing fields, and planting corn. The question for us is, are we going to put so many brains into our efforts every year that we are going to go on steadily and constantly improving from year to year? Are you going to get into the habit of so thinking about your work here that the habit will become, as it were, a part of yourself, so that when you go out into the world, you will not be satisfied to take a position and go on in the same humdrum manner, but will not be satisfied until your work has been improved in every possible detail and made easier, more systematic, and more convenient? We must put brains into our work. There must be improvement in every department of this institution every year. It is absolutely impossible for an institution to stand still. It must go forward or backward, grow better or worse each year. an institution grows stronger and more useful each year, or weaker and less useful. This institution can grow only by each person putting his thought into his work, by planning how he can improve the work of his particular department, by constantly striving to make his work more useful to the institution, by keeping the place where he works cleaner and making his work more businesslike and more systematic. That is the only way in which the questions which people all over the country are asking about this institution can be satisfactorily answered. You will find that people will look to us more and more for tangible results. Not only here, but all over the country, our race is going to be called on to answer the question, what can the race really accomplish? It is perfectly well understood by our friends, as well as by our enemies, that we can write good newspaper articles and make good addresses, that we can sing well and talk well, and all that kind of thing is perfectly well understood and conceded. But the question that will be more and more forced upon us for an answer is, can we work out our thoughts? Can we put them into tangible shape so that the world may see from day to day actual evidences of our intellectuality? Last winter I was in the town of Clinton, Iowa. I think I had never heard of the place before. And when I got there, I was...
Boom. What do you do? And what do you got to say about that? Can you make tangible your thoughts? Learning and apply that knowledge and do something that uplift yourself so that you become more productive to your environment and the people around you. This is what the Tuskegee machine was producing at that time. It's apparent that at that time, they already believed that you could sing and dance. That was obvious. But can you take your thoughts and produce a product? Can you make life better around you? Can you see the nature around you and get some use out of that? That was well over 120 years ago. And here we are. Did we do that? Did we control our environment? I say no. I say that we chose to switch directions and go heavy into liberal arts, singing and dancing and being in Hollywood, faking and shaking, cooning and buffooning. Y'all know how they do it. I got to bring this out because we're going to listen to them and we're going to look at them. And y'all know who the them are, right? Those are they who control their environment. And we want to know, what are you doing that allows you to control your environment while I look for a job in your environment instead of creating my own environment and producing jobs? It's better to be a producer than a consumer. By default, Black America, you have become consumers, billion-dollar consumers, because there's no other thing to do when you are not a producer. And though you can intellectually dialogue about your thoughts, you cannot take those thoughts and start producing for yourself. It is the miseducation of the Negro. Y'all know about Carter G. Wilson. You was miseducated. You was thrown astray from the direction that you were headed according to this Pan-African paradigm of reinstituting masters of men among Black people into the world populace so that you could be productive for yourself and for the rest of the world. This was not about separating yourself from the world. This was about separating yourself from ignorance while you develop yourself to be productive for the rest of the world. That's how we got here. Do you understand? So let's get in a little deeper to this, right? So now We got that out the way. Let's take a look. Let's listen to them as they talk about President Bush and try to force the conversation as though they're talking about immigrants. And you know, when you use these words, you remember the doublespeak. Remember the doublespeak. You should be with a pen and a pad right now, seeing if you can pick out the doublespeak as we listen to about 4 minutes and 30 seconds of a dialogue amongst the group that controls their environment. They control their environment so swell. They're on a media platform and they got a big, huge audience. We call them Bloomberg. We call them Fox News. We call them CNN. We call them New York Times. They control their environment. They control the narrative on a large, large scale. But they got issues among themselves. They got different presidents with different minds working on a global unity among themselves, that they remain in a power structure, that they control environments all over the globe. Let me get a good picture. Sometimes I can't just show, you know, the video, the audio that I play. So I'll just grab a cool picture and let's see. All right. Let's see what we get. Let me see what kind of images we get, right? Hold on one song. Be strong for your boy, right? And let's see. Let me take that out. Just do some freestyle. Freestyle pictures. Bear with me because we got some heavy information. We ain't talking about that norm. We getting into this real conversation. We getting into the kind of information that they like to speak about. I'm trying to grab a cool picture that reflects the audio I'm gonna bring, right? And sometimes I'm doing this off the fly. Usually I try to be prepared for y'all, but you got to just hang in there and be strong and hold on, because when it's on, it's on. Here's a cool picture. Just a little news desk picture, just to give y'all something to look at, unless y'all want to look at me. Y'all don't always want to look at me. I'm not always easy to look at, huh? Well, here we go. Let's get into it. Let's build a better world, one STEM at a time.
Tech stand up unified in anger, it seems.
Oh my God, this is a massive political repudiation of the Trump administration. And I think two things are going on here. One is, as Caitlin said, you know, Silicon Valley derives an enormous strength from immigrants, you know, going back to Andy Grove at Intel, to Satya Nadella at Microsoft. Number two, you know, these are blue state companies and their employees, you know, by and large, did not want to see Donald Trump president. They are reacting, you know, very negatively to this immigration executive order. And I think they're putting a lot of pressure on their leaders to come out and take a stand.
Fascinating. Many citing, of course, Steve Jobs himself was son of a Syrian. Peter, dig into us where we go next, because there's much concern building among those very same tech leaders that next is going to be the visas that are going to be analyzed and maybe executive ordered against.
That's right. Yeah, there are these work visas that are very popular with tech companies that help to be able to bring in workers from around the world, either for short-term or for longer-term assignments. And to be clear, maybe it's good to begin with a caveat. What we saw is a draft of an executive order. It hasn't been signed by President Trump. It may be modified before it's actually signed into law. But there are a couple things that are very clear. One, the work visa programs as they exist right now do not work to the original purpose of their legislation. And two, the changes are consistent with the kind of populist statements that President Trump has made. It looks like Trump and Congress are going to look at a variety of reforms aimed in the direction of giving American workers more priority and then paying the workers that come in from outside more money instead of bringing in lower wage workers, trying to pay them more.
And Brad, I mean, what seems so interesting here, and yet perhaps more fuel to the fire for many of those tech leaders, what Peter was spelling out for us. And there were some olive branches to begin with. It's only December the 14th that we saw the tech leaders in the room with Donald Trump. Is all that going to unwind?
No, not at all. I mean, this is why we keep seeing Eric Schmidt, going to the White House, going to Trump Tower. Why executives like Elon Musk and Travis Kalanick of Uber see the need to be on the business council despite the PR price that they are paying among their employees and some of their customers for being affiliated with Trump. They want a seat at the table. They want to push their agendas. The H-1B visa program is prized in Silicon Valley, and they want to maintain it. And so that's why they're trying to advocate on their own behalf.
Peter, is there any update as to the timing of this? I know you said as yet the executive power is perhaps not quite as strong on this front, but could we see it as soon as this week?
Well, there's speculation about it coming relatively soon. It'll be difficult to tell, given the backlash against the original executive order on immigration. It's not clear whether that will take additional time. I do think that you're going to see a split, though, over the H-1B issue between the U.S. tech companies that are recruiting highly paid workers from overseas to work on kind of specialized assignments, and the outsourcing companies, which have typically brought in workers that are paid less money. And I think the reforms are aimed at trying to split those two and looking at the differences between them. If there are fewer visas that go to the outsourcing companies, that actually means there may be more available to the Apples and the Googles and the other tech companies that are bringing in specialized work.
And just lastly, Brad, when we're looking at some of the actions that we're seeing, I mean, Brian Chesky looking at donations, in particular to the ACLU, that seems to be an interesting tack that some of the leaders in tech community are taking, perhaps not speaking up out directly against President Trump, but perhaps trying to put in place help for those, particularly their own workers.
Yeah, not to interpret it all cynically, but you're seeing tech CEOs really strive to kind of demonstrate their bona fides. And so, with that donation, that pledge of support of refugees, Brian Chesky kind of hit a home run. Lyft donated $1 million to the ACLU. They kind of hit a home run. And then poor, sad Uber, kind of stumbling. There's not a lot of rationality behind this delete Uber campaign that we're seeing on Twitter right now. But, people just sort of, the sort of anti-Trump crowd concluded that they weren't being strident enough in their communications on the immigration executive order, and here they are kind of stumbling to strengthen their own statement. So a little bit of optics at play here.
All right. Give me a moment. Let me stop that audio. Make sure we ain't getting into some more info. All right. Boom. Let's put a stop to that. Welcome back to the show. Yes, indeed. We rocking. We going in. Aviator Squad is on the scene, getting it in. So I wrote down one or two particulars. Peace to the chat. Let's see what we got. Go ahead, line when I'm done. Shoot it. Yeah. I see a couple of the CRTs is in the building. Haven't seen a troll jump in yet. Sometimes the trolls need to learn this. So y'all can hate, but y'all gonna learn why you goddamn hate. That's for a fact. So what we got here? We got H-1B1 visa. That was a word that was repeated more than one time, right? So who does that apply to? H-1B1 visa, right? They also had what they called the workers, right? So let me show you something. And we're going to show you how all of these things it's called the H-1 it's in the United States for free trade, it's only free states, right? Okay, so let me share my screen so we can just read it together, because this is a learning show. This is just strictly information. I'm not looking for 10,000 views. I'm looking for some hardcore information, because my audience that actually rolling with the PITT boss are of intelligent sort of minds. And when they email me, they be having booklets of information like, PITT, look it, read this, forget about the bobblehead and focus on this. and I get to it. I'll be like, I'm on it. So we have the H-1B1 visa, right? The H-1B1 visa and associated H-1B1, right? Status is a variant of the H-1B visa in the United States for nationals of Singapore and Chile. The version of Singapore is called the H-1B1 Singapore, and the version for Chile is called the H-1B1 Chile. These categories were introduced with the Singapore-United States Free Trade Agreement and Chile-United States Free Trade Agreement, respectively, both of which are ratified in 2003 by the 108th United States Congress and signed into law by George W. Bush, President of the United States at the time, and became active on January 1, 2004. The visas are also called the FTA visa because they were provided through free trade agreement, the FTAs, right? And let's read just a little more. So the H-1B1 is distinct from the E-3 visa for Australian nationals, even though there are variants of the H-1B. It is also distinct from the TN visa and associate status for residents of Canada and Mexico, which is associated through the North American Free Trade Agreement. All right, so now there you have it. What you got going on here is visas with breakdowns in them. They have certain countries which they have outsourced information for technological learning. And so those countries are producing high-end PhD STEM program minded people. And Silicon Valley is up against Trump for his latest legislation among immigration, because these bills could impact the ability for them to bring in these STEM-minded people. Whereas on the lower end of STEM, the immigrants coming out of Canada and Mexico, they don't have this same kind of educational background coming out of their countries, so they get a different kind of visa in a different kind of trade agreement. So you have all of these variants that all sound the same. When we're talking visa, you think it's just one visa. No, there is 1,000 visas for 1,000 different reasons, and everybody is not eligible to them all. So Silicon Valley is making a push. We bring in our technological minds from outsourced overseas, not over the border, but overseas. And so because of that, we have what you call specialized work, another doublespeak word. Specialized work. What is special about this work versus that work? I thought work was work. No, not in the doublespeak of American news. Work is not just work. There is work, and then there is specialized work. And there may be even super duper expectationist specialized work for the very few who understand how to solve problems in the STEM, right? Now, since they control their environment, meaning that they control the media, the news outlets, information highways, you cannot pass go without them. They are ticketing you at the booth, and they are charging fees for understanding which way to move on the information highway. And so because of that, we got to go a little deeper, right? We have to dig in to how they, let me just say, perpetuate employment and various things in regards to this type of education. Because understand that the populace in Silicon Valley, if you ever take a trip there and just vacate in a STEM-based community, you'll one thing notice that it is highly clean out there, and that they don't have all them gang problems out there. They'll give you 1,000 years for throwing paper on the ground, because they plan to be meticulous about this information, right? So I found a few articles that we can read together, how the news perpetuates this STEM education, right? So let's share the screen again. It's a lot of sharing going on. Y'all can try to find this article if you want. It's called Money Box and the Stagnant Job Market for Young Scientists. This is the title from Money Box, right? So they talk a little bit. They act as though there is some stagnation in the program, because whenever you put out these articles and you understand this double speak, you can key in on the words that are flipping the information to make it appear, hey, I shouldn't get this kind of education because there isn't a job market. STEM does not produce a job, it produces products. It doesn't create employees, it creates employers. So when you see a decrease in the job market is because those people have graduated and went off to produce. And when you have a producer, he doesn't pop up in the job market. He pops up in the job market as the boss. So it says, and I'm just reading it in a little, I skipped through it because I had read the article already, and I'm just going to pinpoint a few particulars. So I'll start here. It says, first, we know that the actual boom looks like in these fields. Thanks to the way employment rates spiked during the glory days of the late 1990s. That was the .com era when the internet was in full bloom, coming into existence. So it says, we are very, very far from that peak. Second, in almost every discipline, the number of podcasts or young PhD holders working under the tutelage of an established scientist has either been rising or stayed increasingly high, which is not especially positive sign for the job market. Postdoc appointments are temporary, usually at least a couple of years. Some involve independent research and ideally give young scientists a chance to publish articles that will help them land a tenure track job. Some are more than lab assistant positions, but the pay, as shown in the graph from the NSF, is always low, especially for somebody who just spent 6 years or more earning a degree, considering it not uncommon in some fields to spend 4 years or more staring pod docs together. This period of additional training means that many PhDs will into their 30s before they have permanent jobs with salaries that reflect their education. So it says in this particular graph, medium base salary and doctorate recipients, that definite commitment in the United States by position and type of field in the study. This is for 2012. Now let's look at it. So at the top of the scale is 120,000. And in the lower on the scale, 20,000. Everybody's preaching that. Here are the particular subjects that are being grafted: life science, physical science, social science, engineering, education, humanities, and other non-SE fields, right? So now, take a look at humanities. It's pretty low, if not the lowest in some sectors. Now, in this, let's see what these are. Employment industry. So the blue will represent employment in industry. The orange or reddish color is employment in academia. And in the green will be the postdocs, right? So it's always the postdocs are lower on all the grids. And they pretty much follow a pattern. Employment in the industry, right? So now, in the field of physical science, the graph is very, very high. And other non-SE fields, right? Science and education fields, right? So here we're dealing with a lot of education in this particular graph in the subjects. And these are all worker bees. Everybody here is the worker bees. They are grading the scales for the worker bees in that particular model, right? So now, here's a different kind of scale, right? This one is employment status for graduating chemistry PhDs from 1992 to 2012, right? So the blue line represents employed, the red postdocs, and the three negotiating. The purple, the green is negotiating, the purple is unemployed, and the blue is others, right? Okay, so let's focus on the unemployed. Employment in 1990 was below 20%. And as it kind of rose, 95, here comes the .com era, 2000 and 2001, and the unemployed drops, right? the dot-com era begins. Now, as we go into the new market, this unemployment starts to rise. 2012, we went through a casualty and starting in 2007 with the real estate bust. That's when Pitt Boss jumped out that game and watched it all fall, right? So we went through a Great Depression in 3 years and unemployment was on the rise. Now, when unemployment is on the rise and you have a degree in chemistry, you have a PhD level in chemistry, your ability to create a product is too simple. It's too simple. So therefore, you have no need to necessarily enter back into the workforce as an employee, not during times of bad, right? So let's just read on a little bit. And they have lots of graphs. I'll also post this particular article inside the chat room for any of you that just want to look a little deeper than what I'm showing it on the particular video, as I'm just pinpointing information just to flow along with my particular show. So let me post that in the room and any of you can jump on that site, right? I keep a lot of sites registered in what I look at, because not only am I doing this YouTube thing and talking about soap making and talking about the STEM program and the history, but I'm also at the same time building a technological base, which y'all will come to know as digitalpitboss.com soon enough. And when you see the many and multiple directions I'm taking this Digital Pit Boss, understand what this STEM is about. I'm offering it in segments in the beginning of the year. Somewhere in the middle of the year, we're going to dig in. Products are going to form. Services are going to come about. More techies are going to join forces with me. And then you'll see a whole nother Digital Pit Boss. You'll see when I cross that $100,000 barrier in your face, I'm going to enter the race in a much more severe way. And we're going to go hard. The closing of the year is going to be the production of information, the application of information. First part of the year is the exploratory section of information, the narrative of the information, the expository of the information. But once that information has been narrated and expository, it will then go into apply. I hope that you apply this information. Okay. So there was one more section. I hope I can quickly find it. Sometimes I lose my way trying to do these live. Y'all said y'all wanted this stuff live. So you got to bear with the skipping and the bumping and the jumping. Here we go. So now this is the writer. In Wiseman, a Jew. They're often very good on their game, but they have a flip-flop message that they share with the public, different than what their particular community, the Jewish community in America, does within the fabric of their community. Just one day, go get you some kosher meat at a Jewish deli so you could walk into their neighborhood. Make sure you're well-dressed, because they're going to look at you. They're going to be trying to figure out, what are you doing over here? When they see you know a little something about that STEM, they're going to shut down. They're going to back up off you, because they understand you've cracked the code in the matrix. You found the glitch in the system. All right. So it says, while a little cleaning up, however, the federal data do tell a pretty clear story that the market for the new PhDs in the much obsessed about STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, is stagnant. This is what he says. Over the last 20 years, employment rates are either flat or down in each major discipline. From computer science to chemistry, it is not what you'd expect, given the ways companies like Microsoft talk about talent shortages. That's what Microsoft is saying. We have a shortage in talent. And they're talking about, and this guy's talking about, over the last 20 years, there's been a decline. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of that H-1B1 visa for? So we can get them people from Singapore, China, Chile, and India over here. Oh, we're going to see. But the graph does not lie. Building on a short post I write last year for The Atlantic, I asked the National Science Foundation to pull up 2 decades worth of results from an annual survey of earned doctorates, which polls graduating PhDs about their job plans. The numbers, which I've broken down in charts, cover the classes of 1992 through 2012 for chemistry, computer science, engineering, life science, math, and physics. They tell us that the percentage of the new PhD recipients who have a definite job commitment for an employer, whether in industry or in academia, have a definite commitment for postdoctoral research appointments, are negotiating with at least one organization, are still job hunting, meaning unemployed, or have other plans, such as pursuing yet another degree. But before we start looking at charts, it's a bit of context. You can spend dozens and dozens of pages discussing unemployment prospects for each of these individual fields. And trust me, people have. And it's important to remember that these numbers only represent a snapshot of PhDs during their graduation year. In time, the vast majority of grads find some kind of work or research appointment. Unemployment among doctorate holders, even young ones, is extremely low, usually around 2%. 2% can't find a job. Those 2% need to make soap. But it's worth examining these trends because they can tell us more about the overall direction of the labor market. First, we know that an actual boom looks like in these fields, thanks to the way the unemployment rate spiked during the glory days of the late 1990s. We are very, very far from that peak. Second, in almost discipline, this is where we kind of read a little later. I kind of read the earlier part from my brother, Jordan Wiseman. What up, Jordan Wiseman? Holla at your boy, PITT Boss. We tracking down. We getting closer to the business. I'm trying to show y'all that what this STEM thing is doing among the populace in building the infrastructures, they are outsourcing the work. They are bringing in people from other countries. They are outsourcing the education, importing the specialized worker. Double speak, specialized worker. What's so special about having an understanding? An understanding is an understanding. They're making a differentiation, a different opinion. Let me break it down. Between an immigrant worker with basic STEM, gardening, field work, construction, the simple stages, and the PhD level, to the degrees of specialized work, which they call specialized work, right? They talk about the H-1B1 visa, separate from the TN visa, separate from those millions of people who just want to get away from poverty. They don't want to exclude the STEM-based education. See, they don't need to import our literary marvels that we have, because when we see them come to fruition and we see them out there doing what they do, most likely they were born and raised here in America, regardless of what color or neighborhood that they come from. They were born and raised somewhere in America to be literary masters of speech and less about production. We're going to keep our eye on these cats. Now, in contrast to these visas and this special on our STEM program education, we get into currency. We get into means of money. You guys are still trying to figure out, how do I involve myself with this and what should I be doing? Okay, so I've been tracking the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is going to be the way that we interact money. very fluid in different countries, skipping over various paperwork, transferring money across countries. We're going into cyber world, just as we are here today, speaking in cyber world, YouTube cyber world, Facebook cyber world. We also going to do business in cyber world, and we're going to need a cryptocurrency. And that currency, one of the currencies, is the Bitcoin, one of the early stage currencies. And we're going to monitor that thing, because if y'all don't understand this, I introduced this on a show sometime in December. The Bitcoin was at $750. I talked about it again, $890. I've been observing it since the $890, and it jumped up to $132. Then it fell back down to $20. I mean, $1,020. I had a conversation with one of my intellectual critical risk takers, and they just are hesitating. I said, listen, even if the Bitcoin falls down to $900, just buy another at the 900 mark. If you paid at that time, it was roughly moving around $119. So I say to them, buy it at the 119. If it falls down to 900, just buy another one at 900 and hold on. Right? So now look at us. We're at 147, a brand new high. We're just getting started with the Trump era. Things are going to look good for the first 2 years of the Trump era. Trust and believe this is the way they work. This is a pattern of Washington, D.C. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has everything to do with mass propaganda. So they got a new president in. They don't want to go into global collapse, make the president start looking like a complete idiot. So they're going to make sure he does the right thing coming out the box. Oh, I'll change the name of Black history to African American history. What the hell? Are you trying to put us in a box? Give us the name of that you used when you was handing out treaties. Give us the name when you was making agreements with the coloreds. Because see, legal documentation, I am a colored based on your legal documentation. Now you transform me into an African American. How does that apply to the multiple people that are traveling here from all over the planet who have African descent and they come to America? How do I distinguish myself and the hard times that you put me through those who are just benefiting that showed up last year? Anyone that gets a visa and becomes an American with African descent, all of a sudden is an African American. I got nothing against my brothers traveling in, but we still haven't handled the business of last year, 1,000 years ago. I need to understand what the doublespeak is about. You know, President Trump, he's not as good as Obama with that doublespeak. Obama was one of the best doublespeakers to ever present himself in the White House. But let's get back to the Bitcoin. You know, get on down to this Bitcoin. Y'all gonna understand me. While we're watching this thing, it changed the dollar. So here's the prediction from PITT Boss. The PITT Boss prediction on the Bitcoin. You get it, and you get it good. The Bitcoin is money. Just consider the Bitcoin a debit card. Take your bank, download the Circle app or one of the apps that you favor, link that Bitcoin app to your bank account. Separate the bank accounts if you want. Create an additional bank account to deal with this Bitcoin. Put the money in the bank, transfer it over to the Bitcoin, and let it sit there. If you need to make a transaction, people accept the Bitcoin. Use the Bitcoin to make the transaction. Lately, PITT Boss found a little poker site. Don't worry about how I got there. And what they're playing with, or what they're transferring credits, what they call credits, another word for doublespeak, a doublespeak word for money, credits. You can transfer credits to Bitcoins. I said, oh shit, you mean to tell me I can double down on somebody, raise the deck, and when I win these credits, I can shift them over to a Bitcoin account. Oh shit, I'm going for $10,000 worth of Bitcoins. So everybody has a little money that ain't poor pissed around here. $500, $5,000, $50,000, $5. Get $5 worth of a Bitcoin and just put it there. $5. It's not about, oh, I'm gonna get rich or I'm gonna lose my $5. No, you'll still be able to buy something for $5 with your Bitcoin at whatever value it's trading for. Now, if you own the Bitcoin and you paid $1,048.23, trust me and believe me, you could sell that Bitcoin and get more than what it is trading for. That's what makes the value go up. This is just like the stock market. This is just like your paper dollar. Your dollar could buy a loaf of bread 20 years ago for 50 cents. Now your loaf of bread can only buy a quarter loaf for 50 cents. Bread costs $2. Therefore, 50 cents of your dollar could buy 1/4 of a loaf of bread. Now, you don't seem to have a problem with that. You just a worker bee all day. Can't wait to get your dollars. And your dollars just decrease in value. It's like the white man just reached in your pocket and took out a wad of money and left you with the change. And now you got to take that change and go get a loaf of bread. If you put your money in this Bitcoin and you start moving through cyberspace with this money, making transactions in the Bitcoin, you enter into the future. And that's where we sit in the STEM program. We are the future. We build the future. The future is not a literary world. The future is a biotechnical. The future is a Bitcoin. The future is flying automobiles. The future is going from the chemical to the natural. From the chemical to the natural. You can get there if you try. Let's look at what the articles of today are going on. Just read a couple of these titles. The Philippines just released new rules for Bitcoin exchange. Bitcoin's prices break within $100 of its 2017 high. Just took off on them. Dubai's government launches blockchain trade, financial trials with the IBM. A town in Illinois announced it's holding a Bitcoin sale. Ooh, I want to go to Illinois. This dark market wants you to pay. The dark market wants to pay you Bitcoins to find security bugs. Ooh, for all you techies out there, North Dakota legislators advanced plans for the Bitcoin regulation. They're going to regulate that Bitcoin. They're going to try. France Central Bank wants to work with more blockchain startups. Blockchain insurance consortiums, B3I, adds 3 new members. Arizona lawmakers is trying to ban blockchain gun tracking. We got to get into that one. What the hell is going on? No more blockchains. An Arizona lawmaker is proposing that states prohibit the use of blockchains to track firearms. People are trading guns on the, call them blockchains. Hit you with the blockchain. I ain't really rock, man. Meet the ex-banker using Ethereums to take on traditional hedge funds. See? Let's see where they were at. Goldman Sachs. I love to see that name, Goldman Sachs. What up, Goldman Sachs? Shoot your boy some produce. Give me some of that mud, bud. So let's get into this one a little bit. You know what I'm saying? The barriers to enter an individual investor is frequently $500,000, with portfolio managers themselves needing as much as $200 million just to get started. But the potential rewards are equally large. It was a tough lesson to learn, for Mona El Issa, a former Goldman Sachs vice president, gosh, Lishi, who after being selected as a member of the Forbes 30, under 30, the Forbes 30 under 30, and rising from 30 million of her own fund, found herself surprisingly underprepared to compete against the much more heavily capitalized firms, dismayed by the competitive environments that favored those who already had vast fortunes. Elisa ceased her funds operating and took off to study blockchains. Has anybody in the CRT begin to study blockchains like this $30 million Elisa? She already worth 30 million and she's on the run. Follow her. She ain't black, but she's black. She's in the black. Are you in the red? If you in the red, you need to get in the black. Blockchains. All right. Today, the Ethereum's base hedge fund platform she founded as a result of sabbatical is announcing the hire of George Hellman, an Ethereum Foundation former head external communication, to help bridge the gap between hedge fund demands and blockchain technology. Blockchain technology. See, every time I see another word, right, deeper goes the rabbit hole. Deeper goes the rabbit hole, right? Don't let me see the word like technology in anything. Because if I do, here's a step-by-step for you beginners. Now, if you're in the history of Kemet, this may not be too interesting to you for the moment. But you'll change your mind after you, what? Get out of here. All right. My computer be talking to me. Y'all got to understand. Okay, the blockchains are undeniably ingenious invention, the brainchild of a person or a group of people known by the pseudonyms Satoshi Nakamoto. But since then, it has evolved into something greater. And the main question every single person is taking is, what is a blockchain? By allowing digital information to be distributed but not copied, blockchain technology created the backbone of a new type of internet. Originally devised for a digital currency, Bitcoin, the tech communication is now finding other potential uses for technology. Bitcoin has been called digital gold. Digital gold. Don't you like the sound of that word? Digital gold. Digital pit boss gold. Let me get back to the business. And for a good reason. Today, the total value of the currency is close to 9 billion US. And blockchains can make other types of digital value, like the internet or your car. You don't need to know how the blockchain works to use it. However, having a basic knowledge of this new technology shows why it's considered revolutionary. So we hope that you enjoy what blockchain guide. Okay. What is a blockchain technology? The blockchain is an incorruptible digital ledger of economic transactions that can be programmed to record not just financial transactions, but virtually everything of value. It is a digital ledger. You know how you have your little paper ledger? That's a blockchain turned digital. And it's recording information of value. All right. A distributed database. Pictures show spreadsheets that is duplicated thousands of times across a network of computers. Then imagine that this network is designed to regularly update this spreadsheet, that you have basic understanding of a blockchain. Information held in the blockchain exists as a share. So information has been converted into shares. Exists as shared and continually reconsoled database. This is a way of using the network that has obvious benefits. The blockchain database isn't stored as a single in any single location, meaning the records it keeps are truly public and easily verifiable. Not centralized versions of this information exist for a hacker to corrupt, hosted by millions of computers simultaneously. Its data is accessible to anyone on the internet. You can join in to information sharing about valuable information, but only valuable to someone with a computer-based education. Because if you're still trying to figure out what Nagas is in Kemet, what the history of the word Nagas is, you just playing around with yourself. You need to be trying to figure out what the hell is a bit chain, a blockchain, busting at you with the Glock chain. You need to be getting with the business. I'm not here to play silly games with all of the trolls that can't understand what this Booker T business is about, what this STEM-based education and where it's headed. I am not headed to literary heaven. I'm going to bury them under the Bitcoin hell of heaven and give you this business, give you this work. Now I'm handing y'all the keys. For those of you who have invested in the soap game, here's another revelation of sort so that you can understand how I connected the soap game to the digital world and making it so that you have become a producer on the smallest scale. First, we got rid of the chemical lifestyle of bathing in chemicals. All of that fluoride in your toothpaste, and getting rid of that, right? In return, I'm handing you a simple base business that you can make with tools in your kitchen, out of supplies in your cupboard. You can, of course, advance it to the level of the piano cutter that Pit Boss got. It costs about $400. And you can begin. When I send out your block of soap, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to create digital. Nobody else get them because nobody else believed. Now, if you believe but you didn't have no money, hit me in the inbox. I'll send it to you too. Because we got to get you going. We got to get you off the life of hope. And we got to get you building dreams and imaginations. We got to take your thoughts and digitize them. When I come with these SEOs, do y'all understand what SEO is? A search engine optimization. And we take a look at whatever company you start. You say, hey, Pit Boss, I went to Wix, started me one of them free websites. I'm saying, give me the .com. I'm gonna send back you a spreadsheet of what you're doing wrong. Then I'm gonna send you another email of how to find the solution. And we're gonna optimize like we Optimus Prime around here. Everybody becomes a transformer on a bigger collective called Optimus Prime. What you know about the Transformers? Transformers, techniques in disguise. You know how it was. Y'all grew up with me. Some of you new schools, y'all might not know what I'm talking about, but y'all can go Google it and see. Right? So what I'm intending to build is the brainchild of economic transformation in your little bitty environment. I hope that this is inspiring. I hope it's not so boring that I had to go get white folks to do the talking. The only reason they talking is because they control the environment. If it was my news station in my country, I'll be like, tell me about your history. And then they wouldn't have much to talk about because they'd be like, well, all I can talk about is what I learned from your history. Then I'll be like, well, sit down and take a note. I'm going to tell you some more of this history. And the history says that black folks, if they want to rise up from slavery, They must have good character and find a way to organize your life that you are beneficial to yourself from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Rise up and meditate. Rise up and pray. Because you have to first focus your center. The Comedics like to share the information about the chakras, right? There are 7 basic chakras. There is the lower vibration, the lower third, right? In video editing, we call the bottom of the screen the lower third. That's where the information pops up. So each chakra is given a certain amount of energy that leads to the fullness of the individual. This is universal information. It's not quarantined to Kemet. It's just a principle of understanding one's self, right? They like to express it as though it's unique to them. They like to make you think that Kemet was the first time somebody plucked the apple from a tree. First time somebody threw a seed in the ground. First time somebody didn't want to stay in the rain and built a hut. You see, every society did not make it in history. It's buried beneath Kemet. It's buried beneath America. It's buried beneath a lot of shit, buried on top of shit. We not got time to go dig down all the way to the bottom to find out what was they working with. When we could just look back 100 years of our own history and understand the phenomenal job we created. It was so impactful that it produced communities that brought forth modern engineering, modern thought, modern technology, and we're still doing it today. We're still doing it everywhere. But what we are not doing as a collective is we are not economically working with one another. It's time that those of you who got a little something, stop thinking about just your kids and start thinking about taking on people who appear to have the ability to transform and do something with them. And watch you build a better environment. Time to figure out how to bring a solution to a problem within your own community or in your own insight. As someone came up with the blockchain and realized that I could create a system of operating this information that could be shared by everybody so that it can't be hacked by the hackers changing information because it's on millions of computers. Tap into the blockchain and find out what this valuable information is and why is it valuable to someone. And you're going to see that with the greatest of ease, you have created and produced a solution to a problem. You become part of the blockchain. It's not a lot of information you need to acquire. They say you don't need to know what a blockchain is to use it. But if you like the $30 million LISA, run into the black to get back, you'll get with this. You'll understand quickly that the so-called conscious community, if you're one of them, I've listened to 10 channels in the last 24 hours and they ain't talking about nothing. They talking about who this and what that and, you know, this person is exposed and who cares? I'm trying to make this ounce bounce. I'm trying to take the lames and X them out my game. I'm trying to bubble up on the double up. Take it back old school on y'all. Or bubble up on the double up. I'm going to buy me a Bitcoin and watch it bubble up. Let's see what we got. This is the information that needs to be getting shared. Now, I'm trying to bring you different angles of this STEM program because it's cutting like the Chinese cuts of death. 1,000 paper cuts cross your head and you're going to leak slow. A drip of water becomes a thunderclap. on top of your cap as we bang in this information until you guys pull up these websites and pay attention. How many of you have applied for a visa for another country? Watch and see the access that your American passport gonna get you. It's gonna be easier for you to travel there than for them to travel here. And you're not even taking advantage of that mobility because you stuck on a job thinking that you're supposed to sit there for 35 years with a 401k. Now compare your 401k to the Bitcoin. Guaranteed, if you got a 401k investor that you're dealing with on your job, and you say to that 401k, give me a spreadsheet on this raggedy little 401k over the last 2 months. When he send it back to you, have him compare a comparative analysis to the Bitcoin. In December, you could have got a Bitcoin for $600. Maybe early December. It is almost double. You need to have another form of buying and selling and trading commodities. That's why you need a Bitcoin. You need another way to do things based on the way you're doing it. Major companies, go to their site and see if they accept Bitcoin. Go to your favorite site, your favorite company, and see if they accept a Bitcoin. And if your favorite t-shirt company or purse company, how many of you guys got a Birkin bag and all that stuff, a Coach bag? Go to coach.com and find out if you could buy a Coach bag with a Bitcoin. See if you can get your brakes done on your car with whoever company does your brakes with a Bitcoin. And if you find out they accept Bitcoins, why don't you got a Bitcoin wallet? Why are you still walking around with a debit card that gets you nothing but debits? When you can get a Bitcoin and just by merely holding the wallet, you done made $300. You think it's not gonna go? You think it's gonna go down? You think it's gonna fall down to $600 and you just sitting there looking crazy? If it falls, buy another one. Double up for the bubble up. Just double up. Be like, I'm gonna buy $1,000. It fall down, I'm gonna put another 1,000 in it. It fall a little more, I'm gonna put another 1,000 in it. And then as it grows back, you bought in at the low, you can do what you want at the high. You can start to go and purchase assets. So you want to take a Bitcoin and turn them into assets. You don't want to turn them back into dollar debt, because a dollar is debt, a debt obligation. You have an obligation of debt with a dollar. We're going into crypto university. Y'all better get with it. I ain't got all day to play. We got 1 year left. I'm going to December 31st. I'm going to celebrate it somewhere spending a Bitcoin. And I'm going to go live from where I'm at. Hopefully, some of you will be there with me. I'm going to start offering trip options in another 2 months. I'm going to throw some trips at y'all. Y'all pick the one where we going. We all going to go there together. We all going to make the money to travel there together. You ain't going to spend a dime on what you're working with. We're going to make it. Watch when you see this box come to you. And I start unveiling the products. Got some sample stuff we're going to push out there to you. So if you haven't donated to the channel, if you haven't clicked on my button and see what my wish list look like, do so. If you want more of this information on a daily basis, support the channel so we can bring it to you. I still got many more people to introduce. Tomorrow morning on the Morning Cup, hopefully I bring on the fashionista. She talked about it. We lined it up. We'll see. So get ready for the Morning Cup tomorrow morning. Should be, well, it might not be the Morning Cup because she's in a different time zone. So it'll be more like 1 o'clock tomorrow for the East Coast time, 10 o'clock on the West Coast time. Somewhere around then, I'm going to bring on the fashionista. She's going to lay down some stuff about partnerships. See, everybody I bring on, I'm not just here to ask you, so where you grew up at? No. I want to pick the brain of what you're talking about. See, when I did the show yesterday, I had one of them comedics come on and agree with Alice Bailey. Couldn't believe it. I said, there. They want to sit and focus on the negative. They talk science and ain't got nothing to provide. I'm based and built. I entered this game under this paradigm and I haven't shook or changed shift yet. I only exceeded the paradigm through the community to no response. Nobody wants to respond because nobody has nothing to respond with of any significance. And so they can just simply just make fun of the most impressive thing ever to be presented to the so-called conscious community, and that is Booker T. Washington and the STEM program. If they have a better man who has done something for Black America, present him and tell us what he done. They try to present me W.D. Du Bois in 1903. He writes Souls of Black Men, and they scream about this book. I say, okay, let's put the comparison to the table, really, right? So by 1903, Booker T. Washington has Tuskegee up for 20 years. He has produced more millionaires than Harvard and Yale. He has produced the foreground to Little Liberia. Well, that would come shortly. That hadn't yet been produced. But the idea of it was already in existence. The STEM, the men for Black Wall Street, they were buying real estate. They were real estate owners, thousands and thousands of land. They brought in everybody to build the city, right? So now you want to compare an author of a book to an institution builder. Same year, the Negro Business League. The Negro Business League, a formation of business owners for every state to get together and build better business. This was the forerunner for the United States white folks. And their administration, they would form a company just like it and adopt it to their government, because what Booker T was building was a Black government. He had a business league. In the same year that an author comes out with a book. A book. No institution. Nothing. Just a book. And you want me to make a comparison between somebody who got an entire institution to somebody who wrote a good book, a travel documentation? That's what you want me to do? Can't do it. Shout out to Black Ink and his son, Mosiah, getting busy on production, putting down real products and going hardcore from a minor level. We have good discussions. He brings heavy information. They are producing. They are a great example to what we do with the STEM. So shout out to the brother man. I like to use some of the information that we talk about in the show to bring better knowledge to the game. It ain't just me. You know, I'm regurgitating all of the CRTs. Shout out to, I'm gonna call them the clairaudience. I got someone that specializes in clairaudience. If you're not aware of clairaudience, you may have to go look that up. I'm not the one to break it down to you. Maybe they'll come on the show and break that down. It's too deep for me. But that ain't it. Y'all not even ready for the levels of Black Becky the techie. She over there quietly building with me. We're at it. Who else can I mention? The great Negroologist. All in her 20s, building a family-based community, getting it in. Some of these people don't have pockets full of money. All they have is audacity. That's it. A gas tank full of audacity. They're going to burn it all, trying to get to it all, trying to bet it all. We're going to burn it all. I'm presenting an arsenal of individuals. The fashionista's coming. She going to hit y'all with that business, nothing but that business. Right? We only into the like 5th week of the year. And we already producing producers. Who else I got rocking hard? Who else do I got rocking hard? Cosmics. Oh man. I'm gonna encourage Cosmics to make sure you start coding. Because he comes up with these amazing ideas. And I'm like, bro, I could take any one of them to change my life. And I want to see you do it. Somebody gonna become a millionaire with me this year and put me on. So Pit Boss ain't got to do nothing but rest, dress, lean, burn gasoline, and do a pocket, have a pocket full of green. And what would you like about that? Who else I have? Jason, the international reach. I got things for those international that, you know, we're going to find a way to make these trades. We could do the Bitcoins international. We can make transactions happen and things pop. That's why I'm creating the Bitcoin ideology among us so that we have more avenues of doing business. That's the purpose for that, right? Yeshua Yisrael, a believer in the manner of faction in the transformation of his entire family into producers. Got his family, some of them going to be into the STEM, some of them going towards the literary arts. Sometimes that's for you. You just know how to do that well. Might as well take what you do and do it well. But can you do it that you can still empower your community? My whole flow is empowering yourself. And my man shrugs. Another key component. These people, they be all on the other channels as well, getting it in. I have no problem. You know, this is a social environment and a huge community. But the way we talk, I'm going straight for the business. I'm only concerned in your business game. Whatever you believe morally, I hope you use a great source for it, because it's going to create your character. See, sometimes I get on Facebook and I read these narratives about these people who are upset at some book that some white man's supposed to have written and, you know, took black people and enslaved them under this information. And all I read was just some negativity. And bake like they into yoga or something. I'm like, you know, it's kind of difficult when you wake up early in the morning to get on your Facebook just to express your negative energy. It's going to bounce back at you all day. Start off on the good foot, so you ain't got to use your bad foot. Start off on your good foot with your first step. You ever sprain your ankle and you just be hopping? That's that good foot. Don't let the bad foot touch the ground. It's going to hurt. Wait till it heals. Heal yourself and empower yourself with better information from a more positive circle to influence you to rise to the top. That's why Pit Boss keeps a small little crowd and hit you with a powerful punch. I mean, bink, bank, bip. You can't get around it. So for today, I'm in the mood to close this show out myself. And as you know, as a critical and calculated risk taker, one that would simply bet it all when he believe it all, as you do your research and you get into what you're supposed to be into in the most powerful and dynamic way, and then express it to the world in every facet of your being. That you say what you say and be impeccable with the words, clearly defining your maneuvers through the obstacles of life as you communicate to others. Put some pep in your step. Be gracious. Give as much as you want to receive. Smile in the face of this adversity. And always do your best, because your best ain't gonna always be good enough. You are not always gonna win. And if you don't win, don't cry. Dry your eyes. It's still another day. And when you win, don't laugh. Congratulate. Don't hate, just congratulate. Don't ever, never make an assumption until you have completed the investigation of facts. If you sitting there mixing and mastering your skills, don't assume. Be complete. Be thorough. Never, ever, never, ever take it personal. Sometimes the truth will knock out a tooth as you speak. Don't take it personal. Examine it. Dissect it. Break it down. Ask yourself, why did this new school fool try to teach me the rules when I was being cool? All you got to do is don't take things personal. This is a difficult one to master, but once you master it, you become impregnable with dumb shit. It doesn't affect you. And if you don't let it affect you, you won't find yourself on your Facebook page acting a goddamn ass and pushing out your negativity to your own folks that decided to follow you. There ain't no white man that ever wrote a book that can enslave you. Only way a white man can enslave you is if you first enslave yourself. Then all he got to do is drag your ass along. If the white man went to Africa to get you, what do you think you were? That he would travel all the way to come get you? What he seen was your history. Timbuktu was greater than the Dark Ages. Greater than the Dark Ages was the centuries of Timbuktu. Believe it or not. Y'all remember the show? Believe it or not. Greater than the history of France was the siege of Italy by the Blackamoors, coming across the Straits of Gibraltar. Do you know that the general of the army that crossed over the Straits of Gibraltar, when he got his army across the river at the Rock of Gibraltar, he turned around and burned the ships, all of them. and he told his men, we did not come here to fail. Now get your sword and kick some ass. And damn, they started building temples in ancient Spain, greater than all of Northern Europe. The kings didn't live in palaces greater than the general's side man, marble floors. This is what determination to build a nation looks like. You ever seen the insurance company? Solid, like the Rock of Gibraltar. You know, they talk about you. They talking about you. You just don't know it because they use double speak. Please understand what double speak is. It sounds good, but it ain't saying nothing. It's the trick of the hand. It's black magic. There's nothing enslaving you but you. Be at ease with yourself. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also get wisdom, get understanding, and get knowledge. Digital DPB. And I'm out this thing. Holla.